Good morning, folks. Thanks for joining us on a rainy, at least in Vancouver, Saturday morning to participate in the Chinatown Reimagined Forum to discuss what is a thriving cultural heritage economy. So today I'm joining you from the traditional, unceded territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, colloquially known as Vancouver. I acknowledge that this land was never surrendered, relinquished, or handed over by these nations to Canada or British Columbia through a treaty or other means. It is sovereign and unsurrendered. As part of reorientating our relationship for many of us, which are as settlers to these stolen lands, I encourage people to take continuous action to normalize decolonized practices, ranging from how we relate to each other and reimagine what is possible if we actually advance what is true, the true histories of these lands, and work towards reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. I encourage audience members to look into these histories, and if possible, please share with us which lands you're joining us from today in the chat. Tyler will be relaying that to me, and maybe I can mention a couple. So by the way of quick introduction, my name is Kevin Huang, and my first and traditional name in Mandarin is Huang Yishen. I'm a first-generation settler immigrant from Taiwan. I am the executive director of an organization called Hua Foundation, and also a member of the Vancouver Chinatown Legacy Stewardship Group. I'm pleased to be the moderator for today's session. So for those that are just joining us, I will be going over the housekeeping items again really quickly. So number one, audience participation. Feel free to drop your questions into the chat, which Tyler will advance to me, and we'll see if we have time to discuss with the panel. Or you can join us on Slido and also vote for questions that you would like for us to ask as well. Second, for those posting on social media, there is a hashtag for the forum, which is hashtag Chinatown Reimagined. Live tweeters are very welcome. Three, English has closed captioning for this panel and most of the sessions throughout the forum. We also have live interpretation into Mandarin, and you can choose your audio output in the Zoom button below. And finally, please note that the session is being recorded and can be accessed later for viewing on the Chinatown Reimagined website. And also personal housekeeping item, I do have a dog that may bark, so excuse in advance. Normalizing kids and children, including dogs, in our meetings is a good thing. So what are we discussing in the session? For today's panel, we will dive deep into how Chinatown as a neighborhood is a hub of economic production and consumption driven by culture and heritage. We'll attempt to answer questions such as, what is cultural heritage economy? How does a business participate in or support that economy? What are the unique comparative advantages that Vancouver Chinatown has? We will also touch on some of the tension points that exist in the neighborhood that we recognize as realities for businesses and community members. So with that, I would like to introduce the panelists who will provide a bit more in the background, but for now, just their name and one of their affiliations. So first we have Lorraine Lowe, Executive Director of Dr. Science and Classical Chinese Garden. Say hi, wave. Kim Tran, owner and operator of DD Mao. William Liu, owner and operator of Cam Wine Dim Sum. Wilco Van Bemmel, CEO of Dunefield. Henry Tom, Vice President of Vancouver Chinatown Merchants Association, VCMA for short. And Tom Wanklin, Senior Planner, Downtown Eastside Planning Group from the City of Vancouver. You can see the panelists' bios, their full bios on the Chinatown Reimagined website. So let's kick this off with a very leading question pitched to Lorraine. What brings you to Chinatown and what's making you stay?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. So thrilled to be a part of this esteemed panel group of speakers who all share the same passion about Chinatown, celebrating and sustaining and building upon these tangible and intangible heritage assets. So a little bit about me, my background. I was born and raised in Vancouver.
Closely with a lot of established Chinatown organizations. We work on Millennium Gate with a whole bunch of the groups, the development of the Block 17 that houses the CBA Manor and Success offices. The VCMA is also a member of the Chinese New Year's parade organizing committee. Now, 40 years later, the past 5 years have been very difficult for the organizations and for our members. The ongoing and seemingly escalating impact of mental health issues, addiction issues, and street disorders have been constant strains on our members. The COVID pandemic seems to have affected our members more than other businesses. Perhaps maybe a lack of capacity of a lot of our members to pivot to online or delivery sales, or maybe because the empty streets at the beginning of the pandemic created even more street disorder. The result is that we lost more than a quarter of our legacy business in those 5 years. It's not all darkness though. Many of our surviving member businesses have been able to adapt. They have succeeded in establishing and implementing succession planning, and they're poised to thrive in the future. Many new businesses have started up to fill the vacuum left by the departed legacy businesses. Some can be considered the new legacy businesses, as they seem to fit seamlessly in with the culture and character of Chinatown. For others, the connection to Chinatown is not as obvious. Nonetheless, each of them bring their own vitality to the streets. They are all, for now anyways, small scale and privately owned, which is another defining character of Chinatown businesses. Many of these non-conforming businesses are even now trying to participate in the local economy. So what's next for VCMA? And I call it the VCMA Reimagined. VCMA recognized that it cannot carry out its mission as it had for the last 40 years. Chinatown has continued to evolve, and VCMA must also evolve and adapt. VCMA recognized a few years ago that it must reach out to the new business owners and demonstrate to them that all other parts of the VCMA advocacy mission to provide a collective voice for Chinatown businesses is as important to the prosperity of the community and of their own business now as it was 40 years ago. The VCMA, on its part, must embrace the new businesses and engage them with established legacy businesses to figure out the new direction for the new VCMA. Together, these businesses can figure out how best to draw on the goodwill and the credibility earned in the VCMA's good work over the last 40 years. Thanks.
Thanks for sharing that history. I did not know all the projects that VCMA was involved in. That I think it's so normalized, and we take for I think granted as things in Chinatown now. And speaking about businesses, I'm going to pass it off to Tom, who is from the city of Vancouver, and we know that government plays a role in shaping environments for businesses. And what's upcoming in terms of big impacts across the city of Vancouver that may have impacts on Chinatown as well. Tom, over to you. Can you share a little bit about?
Thanks very much, Kevin. Just briefly to reiterate government's position, the city of Vancouver, the work with Chinatown involves multiple departments. While I'm in the planning department, there's arts and culture, community services, engineering, real estate, facilities management, and others. So it's great to be able to work with Chinatown, and the passionate and committed leadership that exists in Chinatown. It's actually quite outstanding, and in many respects a unique comparative advantage over other neighborhoods. We see considerable change coming, particularly around Chinatown. If one looks at the St. Paul's Hospital and the research complex that's already started construction with the excavation of the basement there, and the potential through that of healthcare industry, research, and of course, in the region of 7,000 people who are employed either directly with the hospital or associated with that. And that maybe offers a big opportunity to Chinatown businesses in the future because of the unique offerings that Chinatown has. Add to that the potential of 10,000 more residents living around the creek, and people working in various roles in those new buildings that are to be put in. You cannot dispute the fact that Chinatown is really a very precious environment, which is poised to also take advantage of those opportunities as they come. And the question then is, how do you manage that change? How do you manage Chinatown of the future to be able to, address any extremes or growth that you want to be able to absorb without it being to the detriment of the neighborhood? So that's the work that we undertake, working with the Legacy Stewardship Group, with the various organizations that are not on the Legacy Stewardship Group, but are still passionately involved in Chinatown's future, like the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation and others. So we like to see an inclusive economy, if one can look at it that way. And the Cultural Heritage Assets Management Plan that the Legacy Stewardship Group has been involved in, that draft document which we're bringing to you talks about an inclusive cultural heritage economy going forward. We need to understand, what does that mean? And that, I think, is part of the reason why I'm so grateful to be part of this panel today, to learn more on how you feel about such an inclusive economy. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Taking it a bit from the macro, going to the micro, Wilco, can you tell us a little bit about the footprint that a lot of the local small businesses have in the neighborhood, given your work with these businesses and revitalizing some of them?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kevin. And thanks for everyone for putting this together. It's been a joy seeing this all happening, the sessions yesterday, but also the videos and what's happening online. Great to see what all these folks in the community have pulled off. Yeah, so let's tap a little bit into the experience of working in the community that our team has done together with community partners, trying to help some of these independent and family-owned businesses that Henry spoke of within both Chinatown, but also in the Strathcona neighborhoods. And you may know us from some work that we've been doing in the community, supporting, for example, Kanwai Dim Sum with their succession towards a new generation of ownership within the Kong Chau Society building. But I'm going to leave that story really to William to tell, because he can tell that much better than I can ever do. But we're also working right now supporting the Chinese Nationalist League with their historic Kuomintang building on the corner of Gore and Panda Street. You might know it, and it has two vacant former food establishments that we hope to activate with the help of everyone as well. And we're doing also work in the Strathcona area, helping the Vancouver Buddhist Temple to reimagine their space and see if that could become a place where aspiring food entrepreneurs can get their first steps into new business. I'm just mentioning these projects because they are a bit of a source of learning. When you really start working with such entrepreneurs and these not-for-profit landlords, you really see what people are struggling with and what they're hoping for and what might be ways moving forward. And like Kevin suggested, something that really is interesting to observe is that these businesses, these cultural businesses, family-owned businesses, it's way more than meets the eye. We might look at them and think, oh, this is just a small retail store. But as you get to know them better, these humble mom and pop shops, they often have far more economic impact than what immediately meets the eye and what we might imagine. Just to give you some examples of what that can mean in practice and real life. Something we've really noticed is that as you start talking to these smaller businesses, that a lot of their products are sourced from a 2 or 3 block radius. Their vegetables, their packaging, their spices, their ingredients, it all comes from the neighborhood. And a lot of deliveries are happening by hand truck. It means that there is a real spin-off. If that one business does well, a lot of businesses in the blocks nearby do as well. And I think we should really not underestimate that kind of synergy within that small business community. Something we also observed hands-on, yeah, it's actually a good word to use, is the traditional and handmade nature of these products that these cultural and legacy businesses provide. And that's often about food. It means that there's a lot of staff. There's a lot more staff in these establishments, even though they might look small, than in your average food retailer. And that's something we should really keep in mind, how much employment they generate. A lot of these small businesses have supplier contracts, so you might not know, but you may very well be eating their food or buying their products because their products might be in your favorite restaurant or your favorite grocery store. Many of these businesses when they are in not-for-profit buildings, they actually provide a lot of support to their landlords. The relationship between these businesses and their landlords is a little bit different than what you might expect. A lot of small businesses, they take on tasks that you would normally expect a landlord to do. And a lot of that has to do that such landlords, and in our experiences, it's mostly Chinese societies and benevolent associations. They are all volunteer run. Their boards are usually aging as well. So there's not always capacity to look after the building and to think of ways of upgrades, maybe the interior or the facade. And these businesses are quite often pulling that. And we also see that a lot of the businesses they play a big role in the cultural festivals. Around Moon Festival or around Dragon Boat festivals, a lot of the food or the other kinds of volunteering is provided by the small businesses. They're usually really busy the weeks before these festivals, and are really the stewards of that kind of culture as well. And something I also want to mention is the mentorship that small business is providing to other young entrepreneurs. I know one example where I was walking in Chinatown, and I was talking to a small business where the younger kids were thinking of taking over the business. And at that time, William Liu, the owner of Kamwai Dim Sum, walked by with his hand truck, and a really nice conversation started to happen there right in front of that store. And you could really see that other young entrepreneur was looking to William as an example of, oh, you see, it is possible to pull this off in Chinatown. It's not easy, but it can happen. And that kind of mentorship is really important and provided by the entrepreneurs of Chinatown. So that hopefully shows a little bit that there is way more than meets the eye when it comes to the kind of cultural economy that we're speaking about today. And then there are even more layers. We've noticed that a lot of businesses, they might have a retail front within Chinatown, but they may have production somewhere else in Strathcona, Grandview, Woodland. So Chinatown can really play a role in the bigger ecosystem, particularly when it's about the food economy. And we've also seen that for a lot of seniors, these businesses are a place where they find social belonging. They can speak their own language. They can meet people that they're familiar with. They can meet their friends. And it extends the independence of seniors. It means that such seniors can find the kind of groceries in their own neighborhood, cook their own food, find affordable goods, and also, not rely on their kids to do all of that. So hopefully, and I'm piggybacking a little bit on what Tom says, hopefully by looking a little bit broader at what the value of a cultural economy could be, and not only looking at the monetary value of it, but also by looking at the community value of such an economy, we can, first of all, have a better rationale to invest in that economy. And I think we really should bring more money into that economy, but also to find ways to have an inclusive economy, so that economic growth does not automatically mean that it's at the expense of what is happening today, that is at the expense of the businesses of today and the demographic of Chinatown of today. I think the community is really worried about that, and they have good reason to be, but hopefully by looking broader, we can find ways out of that and beyond that. Good, yeah, that would be my part, Kevin. Back to you.
Thanks for that, Wilco. Yeah, there is even as a organization, as an individual that's like decided to move our offices into Chinatown in 2000, I think 14 or 15. Like it's astounding how much things are hidden, I think, for folks that don't actively come into a neighborhood or work there or otherwise. And I do want to highlight how the cultural heritage economy that Wilco touched upon, really a lot of it is in the background, literally behind the storefront. whether it's jobs or whether it's like the thousands of dumplings that that is sourced to even TNT, for example. These are all things that I think we need to talk about when we're talking about Chinatown's economy, but also not just as a place of consumption, but also a place of production. And with that, I just want to pass the mic over to a couple of business owner and operators who have kindly provided their time, away from operating their business to share their insights with us. And first is William Liu from Camo and Dim Sum. Over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Kevin, for the introduction. It's so amazing to be here with people that are so passionate about Chinatown, that have so much love for a community that I've been so blessed to be a part of all my life. So I'm just going to give you a brief introduction of myself. So I grew up in Chinatown, basically. We lived on Kiefer Street, right across from Strathcona, and we moved out of there about 5 years ago. But we have had, this is our third business in Chinatown now. So our first business was on Kiefer Street. It was a Lung Fung Bakery. My father's had that bakery with one of his partners, and then they opened a Camo Dim Sum to provide frozen dim sum for people, because they saw that frozen dim sum was something that was viable, and people were missing that option at home. So they decided to start that up. And then my grandfather started NNL Enterprises on Gore Avenue, which sold antiques. And that was right underneath the Chinese Nationalist League, along with Camo Dim Sum, back when we were on 525 Gore. And we moved here to our current location at 249 Pender in 2010. And that was in anticipation for the Winter Olympics. So initially when we opened, we were actually a restaurant. And during that time, we were anticipating a bigger influx of people in Chinatown. But during that time, people were hesitant on Chinatown, and there was a lot of construction happening. So the foot traffic wasn't as good. So we had to actually convert our current location from a restaurant into what we were on Gore Avenue, which was kind of a combination of a retail space / a hot food deli, which is what we do right now. And we've been pretty successful upon that. And we have the full support of the community, which has been amazing throughout these last few years, and especially in the last year with the help of Dunfield, Wilco, and a few members of the community, June Chow, Susan Ma. It's just been amazing to see how much can change for the better when people come together, and when people set their minds to one goal. So we were able to accomplish that with the help of Dunfield and the Strathcona BIA in getting a grant from the government to get a renovation in our space. And we completed that on February 8th, just before the Lunar New Year. So people were really, really excited about that. And we got a lot of media exposure, which brought a lot of people in. And it's just been a thrill of a ride since then. It's just so great to see people excited about a success story, and for us to be a part of that success story it's just been an amazing feeling. People want to see success in Chinatown, and we are so happy to be that proof of concept. As Wilco explained, that there are these businesses in Chinatown. Dollar Meats right across the street from us, 50 years. This is our 50th year. I spoke with Kelly about it, the owner there, and he's just so excited that he's been in Chinatown for 50 years. He started on the butchering block when he was 14 years old. Where when I was 14, I was probably learning how to make dumplings with my mom, and it's just these memories will always be with us, and it's just so amazing how we can build on that and build a better Chinatown through these experiences. So now I'm going to talk to you about why I'm doing business in Chinatown. Chinatown's special to me, not just because of all the relationships that we had. So I actually started out not in business. I don't have business background whatsoever. I actually did my degree in music, in opera performance at UBC. And I was going to do my master's in New York. And my dad at that time was going through dialysis, and he had an opportunity to get a kidney transplant. And while I was in New York, he gives me a call and says, "Hey, William, I think I'm going to have to sell the business." I just got a call from the doctors, and they said I'm going to be an excellent transplant list, and I don't think I'm going to be able to continue on with the business while I'm in recovery. So I think the best option is just to sell it. And my heart broke because all this connection I had in Chinatown was going to go away because if my dad decides to sell it, it's gone. And so I want to keep that tradition. I want to keep all those memories within our family. It is a family business. It's my dad, myself, my sister, and my mom. And we employ 12 other people. And I just told my dad, you know what, I think I'm just going to help you out. I think I'm going to put a pause on my career. It'll be fine. The hobby will always be there, but I think the family business and family is really what it is all about. In my family, family is the most important thing, and we all stick together. So I thought it was just time for me to give back to my family. And so I decided to just take it over. So in 2015, I officially took over as CEO of the business, alongside with my sister Susan, and it's just been amazing since. So we can, like I said, it was myself, my sister Susan, my mom and my dad, and also my niece Savannah has decided to join us now. So she's always at the front helping out with my sister Susan. So it's a full family operation, and we employ 12 other people that make lots of dumplings. We make thousands upon thousands a day. Probably wouldn't know it. People come in and they ask us all the time, do you make it in-house? Because, you know, like Wilco says, there is more than meets the eye in all these small mom and pop businesses. You just can't, you don't realize how much we make, but we do make a lot, especially with coming into the big festivities like Lunar New Year and the Dragon Boat Festival. Especially for Dragon Boat Festival, we actually prepare half a year in advance. So Dragon Boat Festival is typically in June, mid-June, or according to the lunar calendar. And we would typically start next month in November to start prepping, because we just have to make so many of these rice wraps, these rice dumplings, these zongzi. So it's a lot, you know, we produce a lot. We are a production company. We are also a retail front, and we have a hot food area that sees to serve the area. We have been in Chinatown for 30 years. This is our 30th year, and we've been serving the community at large for the vast majority of it. And we wouldn't have this opportunity if it wasn't for the people that live in this community, that live in this neighborhood. So the Chinese seniors, they come by every day. They know me by name. They have seen me grow up. It's just an amazing feeling when they mention to me that, hey, I used to go for coffee with your grandfather, or I used to see your grandmother. How's she doing? You know, it's these connections in Chinatown that keep me in Chinatown, because it's just so amazing to be able to to connect with everyone here. So with that, it's just such a great feeling to be in Chinatown, and I thank you everybody that has contributed in our success. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing your personal story and the journey from changing potential careers and coming into Chinatown. And I think if we can hear more of these stories, it would be, you know, I think really tell the stories of the business operators that carry a lot of the economy in the neighborhood. And with that, I'll pass it to Kim, who's also a business operator of Didi Mao.
Thanks, Kevin. And thank you, William, for sharing your story. It's very inspiring to see the generational businesses in the area, and for me to learn from businesses like yourself. And that is one of the reasons why I wanted to speak today to being a new business owner in the area. It's definitely challenging, and to see older businesses still thriving and some of them even closing, has been just a challenge for me. A little bit about my background is I'm one of the owners at Didi Mao. It's a family-run business restaurant just under the Fortune Sound Club, also known as Ming's. So we've been operating there for the past 4 years, relatively new to the Chinatown area. We originally opened in the Yaletown area 10 years ago. And that recently sold this year due to the pandemic. And when we signed on the lease in Chinatown, we were quick to learn that it was a restaurant called Ming's through our mechanical engineer, actually. When he was in there building out our space, he recalled attending wedding banquets in there, and even recalled the dumbwaiter in the space. So of course, now when I refer to us being in the area, I say, oh, we are, to older generations, we are in the same building as Ming's. Or to the younger generation, I say we're under Fortune Sound Club. So I felt like I had big shoes to fill, and that inspired me to tell my story with business. So there's a small room in the dining area that we call the family room. So it was built as an homage to my family. There's photos of them in Vietnam and their journey to Canada, photos of my dad in the Vietnam War. So we tried to keep all of the original beams and expose whatever walls we can to retain that historical value that was built by the generations before us. When we built out, my parents actually didn't know that we were building the restaurant, and we surprised them during the soft opening. And when they came in, they saw that room. They were overjoyed, and my dad was in tears when he saw the photos of him on that wall. And a lot of the customers that come in are surprised to see the space as it is, because we try to incorporate a lot of that, I guess, the history throughout the building. We try to retain most of it. And the food that we brought, that we're cooking there today, is we're trying to keep it traditional and encourage the street food of Vietnam so that people can learn what it is like to eat street food in Vietnam by shipping a lot of the decor as well from Vietnam to build out the space. So we wanted to share what we ate as a family every day to the general public. And there's this term called Bình Yang, which is a commoner's meal. So we would want to cook, say, pork belly with egg and have that on the menu so that people can try. So most of the time we realize that over the years, the buildings and the businesses that occupy the buildings in Chinatown ultimately contribute to its heritage value. So through stories and through the structures, or retaining memories that maybe we had as a family or as growing up, we hope that the new generation can come in there and create new memories. With the events that we have throughout the years as well, we hope that this can lead other businesses to want to open and also share their stories with the public in combination of operating a business there. So it's definitely challenging, but it's exciting to come in and learn over the years. We're honored to be part of such a culturally rich neighborhood and to work alongside all of these wonderful businesses and passionate organizations. I've recently also joined the Chinatown BAA as a board member this year. So I am looking forward to learning more and growing with this community. So with that, I just want to say thank you to the forum for having me, to the panelists for sharing your thoughts, and to all of those who joined in to listen today.
Thank you for your comments, Kim. I did not know about the how you kept the space as close to original as possible. I'm going to go and look at the space differently when I dine in. Okay, so just moving on to the discussion with all the panelists now. Since it is titled Cultural Heritage Economy, the first question to the panel is, what does a cultural, like a thriving cultural heritage economy mean to you? And how does your organization participate in this economy? And perhaps if folks want to, what are the comparative advantages of Chinatown? And just want to say that, folks, we do have Slido. If any insights spark a question for you, please drop them in this, the Zoom or on Slido, and we'll ask the panelists if we get the opportunity to. So who wants to kick it off with what does cultural heritage economy mean to you?
I'll go first.
Go for it.
So yeah, I mean, as a garden, we're celebrating our 35th year in operations. And so I see us as serving a multitude of purposes in the community as a cultural hub, a tourist attraction, a living museum. So ultimately, I see Dr. Sun Yat-sen Garden as a symbolic pillar of this history of Chinatown and this community alongside the Cultural Center, which is actually the original Block 14 parcel of where Chinatown all begins. So the way I see it is our legacy and existence is built upon this cultural heritage economy, and building and sustaining and working towards a future for this thriving economy. It should not just be based on celebrating the history, but we need to evolve, be a forward-thinking type of model, and just being innovative and new ways of creating a relevant community space. So for us, this past year, we have decided, let's focus and pivot, because, we've been this tourist attraction for so long, and it's been very razor sharp focused. And of course, with everything that's been going on, it's like a pandemic era, we had to pivot. So what we've been doing with my wonderful team is promoting events, evening events, that would help kind of stimulate the nightlife and evening activities. So this would engage different types of groups of people of all ages, having it as an event space, and just, representing and serving like a very diverse and inclusive, and not just saying that, right? Like we are really becoming a mecca for this. So I think it's important for us as an organization to support the community in bridging these intergenerational and intercultural connections. And in doing so, just supporting legacy groups, like legacy businesses, but also welcoming the new businesses. It doesn't necessarily need to be Chinese owned and operated. It's businesses who are coming into our neighborhood, respecting our culture, and if we're going to be this diverse and inclusive, community, we need to back it up, and we need to welcome other businesses, but we, for those businesses to celebrate our culture and our neighborhood. So I think that it's important for us to be very involved and supportive as we are this cultural hub and this pillar of this community. So I'm back to you, Kevin.
We can also do popcorn style if anybody wants to riff off of Lorraine's very passionate, which I fully agree with, on bridging work. Please jump in. Yeah. Or I will be forced to call upon people, which I don't like to do. Go for it, Tom.
Yeah, well done, Lorraine. I'm right there with you. It helps me so much to see and listen and to understand how you see an inclusive economy, but also diverse. And it's welcoming the new but not necessarily trying to keep everything as it was 50 years ago. I think it's so critical that we nurture those businesses that are long-standing and the pillars of the economy, but as you say, welcome those new businesses that are coming that bring new life, and not necessarily Chinese businesses. We have to acknowledge that, and I'm hearing this from colleagues, that Chinatown has been the home of many, many different cultural ethnic groups over the years, and it's not restricted to Chinese people only. And I think that is a very magnanimous understanding, going back many, many years, in how Chinatown and the Chinese Canadians have welcomed others and helped others. And similarly, I was impressed to hear how the Musqueam Indian Band has been so close to the Chinese Canadian communities over the years. And I think that is a partnership which is a great opportunity going forward in the future. Thank you.
Talking about inclusive and diverse economy, maybe William or Kim, how does your business, like Kim, for example, you shared how you're joining the Business Improvement Association of Chinatown and others. I'm just curious as folks that are on the ground operating daily, how does that play out for you in terms of bridging some of these divides? Either Kim or William. Yeah, go for it, Kim.
Yeah, so for me, is bringing Vietnamese cuisine to the area is definitely adding that cultural heritage, but from my roots too. So I think being able to build on that footprint that businesses have created before us, and the neighboring businesses around us too, generates more foot traffic to the area, old and new alike. So I think that's how we can work together to bridge that gap. Is not only, it's not really self-motivated, but it's also, if we work together, I think it'll help Chinatown thrive overall, and its culture building upon culture. And there is no boundaries really, and there's no fine line to determine one culture from another, but it's just bringing all of that together in one community.
I love that, Kim. Just the feeling of communities coming together, of cultures coming together. I think that's the future of Chinatown. I do absolutely agree with everyone here. Whether your business is Chinese or not, we are just fortunate to have a Chinese business and to be in Chinatown for so long. And to be able to create that cultural heritage, I believe, is in creating a tradition. And tradition in Chinatown doesn't have to be Chinese. There are so many other different traditions that the newer generation is going to build upon for the future. I mean, my tradition in Chinatown is absolutely going to be different from my niece's tradition. She sees Chinatown and there's Pokemon Go now, so she's constantly in Pokemon Go. So that could be a new tradition for her. I mean, I see so many kids at DCS, and that is a new tradition for them, coming to Chinatown and going to DCS for boxing, and then they would come down to Cam Y and have their dumplings. That is a new tradition for them. And just to build upon that cultural heritage for them, I think it's just so important for everyone to realize that there are new traditions to be made for everyone. There are kids running behind me right now. There are kids probably from DCS that are shopping right now with their parents and yelling and screaming after they just spent all their energy. So it's just amazing to see everyone coming together in Chinatown for this. And I just love welcoming newer businesses. I mean, I was very, very hesitant in the last while before when there wasn't a huge exodus of traditional businesses, of legacy businesses. all these newer businesses were coming in, and it was just very on the edge and just not very sure of what this means for the future of Chinatown. And I've always just been very sensitive to that subject, because what I want is for businesses newer businesses coming into Chinatown to be very cognizant of where they are doing business. And obviously a business needs to look out for the bottom line. So, I'm not saying come into Chinatown and be a nonprofit. I'm not saying, give out your food to downtown East Side. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying, just be very cognizant of where you are. This is Chinatown, and the people around you are lower income. There are people that have lived here for many, many years that may not know or understand your business. So just being very cognizant of all those things. One example that I'll give is right across the street from us is Vegan Supply. Vegan food has become it's become a mecca in Chinatown, and there's just been a lot of different kinds of people coming to Chinatown for vegan food. And Vegan Supply has been one of those businesses in Chinatown that have flourished in the last couple of years. And I have always been very hesitant of that business until a few months ago, when I just thought to myself, well, why not? Why am I hesitant on this? Am I afraid for the future of Chinatown? Yes, I am. And where do I see that future of Chinatown? And I thought to myself, well, where does our business, our culture fit in with Vegan Supply? And where can those synergies be? So I came up with a vegan dumpling. We made a truffle mushroom dumpling. And one day I just said, heck with it. I will make a platter of vegan dumplings. I'm going to walk over across the street. And I've never been inside, and it's been 2 years. So I walk inside and I said, hey, my name's William, and here are some vegan dumplings. We're from across the street, and now we have a vegan dumpling. And their jaws just dropped. They said, you guys have vegan dumplings? We never would have thought. I said, well, yeah, now we do. And you are very, very welcome to come by and get some anytime. And the conversation started with the owner, Jason. And we're now developing a vegan line next year. So I think these conversations have to happen with newer and older businesses, because we have to start understanding each other, where those synergies are. And it's really important for us to realize that Chinatown is evolving, and we all have to adapt. And there's just no way around it. Like Tom said, like we can't go back 50 years. We have to look to the future. So I am very, very happy to be a part of that change, to be a part of that future in Chinatown. So yeah, I'm just really, really happy with that.
Thank you for sharing that story about just bridging some of these perceived and I would say like constructed tensions between new and old, for example. And I also heard that, how do you stay relevant? And that kind of reminds me of Henry's remarks earlier around the Vancouver Chinatown Merchants Association wanting to stay relevant. And perhaps Henry, you can jump in here, and also Wilco after, around some of the work from like a little pulled back level of scope in terms of bridging some of these divides, and also like what has the pandemic brought in terms of changes to this cultural heritage economy. So Henry, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. As I said, the TCMA has come fairly late to the game. I think we recognize that we know Chinatown is all about evolution and changes. I mean, over the 60 years I've been in Chinatown, I've seen Chinatown change from a sort of self-contained little economy to a tourist economy to a regional economy. So it's changed a lot. And recent changes have not really caught us by surprise, but I think VCMA was not really prepared to reach out yet. I think language is a big issue. I think we're resolving to in our meetings, for instance, we will go bilingual where it was strictly held in Cantonese. So I think we're slowly shifting the large ship. I mean, there's a lot of momentum or friction that that we have to overcome. But and COVID hasn't helped. I mean, we hadn't really had a in-person meetings since the start of the pandemic, and we will have our first in-person AGM next month, where we hope to sort of formalize some of these things that we're hoping to do by making meetings bilingual, by having a outreach program, where I guess our first priority would be reaching out to new proprietors like Kim and William and Calvin at the fish store. Those sort of all they're traditional too, but the new generation of traditional businesses. And so our focus probably will start there. And yeah, we hope to build from that. I mean, I think, from my description of the 40 years of good works that the VCMA has done, we hope to be the repository of some of the history, like particularly of the business, history of the businesses in Vancouver, in Chinatown. So, and to maybe help some of the new non-aligned businesses to recognize the significance of the area, significance of the history that they're coming into, and why it would help distinguish their operations from and their location from everywhere else in Vancouver. I mean, and so I think that's that's probably the VCMA's role in the years to come.
Thank you. Over to you, Wilco.
Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, and maybe I want to emphasize a few things that people have already said, which really resonates with me, and make a little bit to a bridge to a question you asked earlier, if we see any advantages for Chinatown as well moving forward. And something that listening to Kim's story and also knowing William's story, I think what's really remarkable is what they have achieved through such a difficult time. They made a real a pivot and a change, and they had to deal with many setbacks, some of which they talked about, but I'm sure there are many more, and yet found a way to continue their business and put it even on a higher plane. And that kind of resilience, I think you could really see over the pandemic. I think the community knows, but I think now we can all see how important it is to have such a business community that doesn't give up, that doesn't just close shop or leave and comes back when everything is all right again, but that finds way to continue and make things work. And I think we hear two really personal stories of how folks have done that. And I think a lot of that is driven both by the passion for the business and the family business, but also the passion and the responsibility that they have towards their customers. Yeah? I think that's not just rational, but that they really want to see that their customers still can come into their shop and find what they need. But so that resilience, I think that's a real strength within Chinatown's business community. Something else I think we get illustrated here a lot is the food culture of the community. That is so strong. We all know how food and life and stories and our personal histories are connected, and what better way to share that with other people who don't know your culture that well than through food. Yeah, so I think the food culture of Chinatown has already so much to offer, and there's so many ways that we can explore that even more. And then something else I think is a real strength of Chinatown, is how engaged youth is with the community. It is still a little bit of wheels spinning and not touching the ground. That I have to admit. But whenever there is an opportunity where students can be involved, let's say in a forum like this, or in documenting the stories that we just heard, or engaging with Chinese seniors and so on, there are so many folks of university who really want to be part of that and want to learn more about the community, want to reconnect with their own heritage, and find ways that somehow also professionally they can add to that and be part of that. To have youth so engaged with the Chinatown community, I think that's a real asset that we should do a lot with moving forward. I said youth has not always found ways to actually sink their teeth into things and make it happen, but I think we're really close to doing that. So these are my thoughts on what I think are our strengths. I'm really curious to hear what other folks would see as strengths for Chinatown moving forward.
Do the other panelists have any key comparative advantages? We're getting some questions, so direct message to me, but also in the Slido around, how is Chinatown different from other places around the Lower Mainland? Starts with an R, I won't say it. But, just like what's the difference between Chinatown? And anybody want to comment on that real quick?
I'm just going to jump in here and say, if you're going to, the elephant in the room is comparing what Chinatown has to offer to a place like Richmond. Chinatown has history, it has culture, it has the Dr. Sun Yat-sen Classical Chinese Garden. So I feel that with our involvement and just being that hub, that cultural hub, where we have a young group of kids coming in, and they've grown up in Vancouver, or they've grown up in the Lower Mainland, but they haven't had the opportunity to express themselves because, for example, I'm just going to delve right into it. I met this very inspiring young Asian man a couple of weeks ago. He was wonderful. He was expressing to me and my colleague Bruno how it meant so much for him to be able to express who he is and celebrate who he was in an environment where he grew up in. And back then he never thought he could express his sexuality. And, we were able to give him a platform and a place to do that. And, for that, to me, is what is so important to me when I hear stories like that, because it just kind of brings me back to what I'm doing. It is like, we are all on the right track, and this is what we want to do. This is what we want to achieve for Chinatown. It's bringing everybody in, and it doesn't need to be just legacy businesses that are going to attract this crowd. It's going to be a little bit of that. Of course, people love history, right? But, if you can look back at old photos of where Marco Polo restaurant used to be, it's not just Asian families. There's a huge Caucasian draw, right? And even Ming's. I grew up going to Ming's, and, it's not just about that. So I think, what Kim's doing, what William's doing is exactly, we are on the right track. This is what we want to do. And, Kim, you'd mentioned something about, trying to share that experience you have of street food of Vietnam into what you're doing right now. That's exactly what we want to do. This population, like the younger population, they want to engage in an experience, right? And this is what we have to offer. It's not just, it's a whole experience. So you guys are on the right track. I'm so happy that, we have this fresh life being breathed back into Chinatown. Thank you. Thank you so much, you guys. You guys are doing an amazing job.
Any other comments from other panelists before I perhaps move on to a few of the audience questions? William, go for it.
Yeah, I'm just going to riff off of a little bit of what everyone's been saying, but and actually going back to what Wilco said before about us having a bigger footprint in Chinatown. and adds to the economy, I think that is an advantage for us because it really does build upon the larger community at hand, and it really builds the community. And one of the examples that I can give is a lot of people always ask us, why don't you carry steamer baskets, or why don't you carry sauces for your dumplings? And I will tell them, you can go next door to Forum and get them from Ross and Tracy. They'll have steamer baskets there, or across the street at Tinland. The sausage, you can go to Carly Barbecue Meats on Georgia Street. And I want people to go around Chinatown and to be able to experience Chinatown at whole, and to get all those ingredients, because I think that's what it's all about, is exploring Chinatown and being able to experience all of Chinatown all at once. It's an amazing feeling. You don't, a lot of people come to Chinatown for one specific thing. And I just want people to be able to experience all the other aspects of it and not leave anything out. So I think that's what's so great about Chinatown. It's just all the neighboring businesses are being able to work together. I think that's one of the advantages that I really see for the future.
Tom?
Yeah, to me as well, added on the discussion about the food, is it's amazing to me how many events, performances, festivals, which are unique, which are community organized and arranged and performed. This is such an incredibly deep cultural experience, a diverse cultural experience for those of us who are not Chinese Canadian or not Asian. It's a very special moment. And, right in the middle of the pandemic, third, fourth wave, there are members of the community working all sorts of hours on the weekends, manufacturing the fire dragon and getting that out there. I think that is part of the comparative advantage that Chinatown offers to the city. It's such a rich experience to come down and be involved, and to see and hear the sounds and see the visual experience. Thank you.
Very true. As the pandemic, I think, really changed a lot of things for me. Like, we didn't have the Lunar New Year parade even that year in 2020. And last year there was a group of community organizers that put up a virtual event as well. And I think that the sense of gathering is so important. And also want to highlight Flota Seafood Restaurant, which is in the Chinatown Plaza, as a space where you see everybody at an event. Like, it just happens, right? And there was a funny tweet there. There's like, are you even a politician if you don't hold an event at Flota, right? So speaking about Chinatown Plaza, it is a city-owned property. I'm just curious as to if the panel has any comments about how perhaps that unique mix of community, city can reimagine something new for that space.
I can take a first step at that. So if you look at land ownership within Chinatown, it's quite unique. So many properties are owned by societies, not-for-profit organizations. In the future, that will be a real opportunity of making sure that that the community has control and can really lead its own development. But we also know that there are some steps to take. Many of these organizations, they do not have the capacity. I spoke about that earlier, and many of these buildings are a bit old. But if there's one place that has scale, that is relatively new, that is centrally located, that and that has only one owner, then it's the Chinatown Plaza. So if there is a real opportunity that we're looking for to scale up our efforts at short notice, let's say within the next 1 or 2 years, then the Chinatown Plaza would be a really good candidate, I think. And I know many people in the community have looked at that earlier, and I thought there should be so much more that we could do with this place. And I think they're right. So it would be great if we could sink our teeth together in an amenity like that and see how can that really become a place that both has a life and activity within its the complex itself, but also has a lot of spin-off and brings traffic to Chinatown in general. So yeah, if we're looking for a really big but low-hanging fruit, I think that would be a great place to start.
And it's also attached to a parking lot. And I know that Chinatown, we've been asking for parking for a long time, but it's right there. So I agree, it's a very low hanging fruit. But anybody else have any comments around the potential for even that site, given its size and its ownership?
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, I'll jump in. The Legacy Steward Group, they're the small business subcommittee has already met with the city on potential future uses, and one of the ideas that we're trying to promote, or they are trying to promote, is to put in a culinary school and associated sort of a food plaza, and that sounds quite very, very interesting. It's the right size, it's indoor, and there's kind of parking and essentials. So I hope they're listening, and I know the city is undergoing some study on its own, but I hope they'll listen to the community, and I hope that both the consultants and the decision makers will look at input from the city, from the community.
I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think the concept that I keep on bringing back to some of these comments, I think the cultural production is so rich. As an organization, a few years ago we stopped, but like we used to run like dumpling making workshops, and it would always sell out, and it's just like thousands a year that I'm actually a little traumatized from eating too many dumplings myself. But it's just like, I think that type of showing people how things are made, right, not just food, is going to be a way that we also carry on this cultural heritage economy, and also allow people to participate in the neighborhood. And we do have a couple of questions here. Looking at Slido, I think folks want to ask the panelists, how do new businesses participate in the heritage economy and set up in a way that respects the culture? So I think, Lorraine, this is directed to you from Dylan, but any panelists welcome to chime in.
In terms of engaging these new businesses, I think the BIA, they've been doing a great job. We've had like a shop, dine and wine promotion. I think just getting everybody together and doing like a group type of like it's almost like a scavenger hunt. There is is it Myota decks, like where everybody has some sort of a brochure or something where you know where the businesses are. Like this is engaging like new businesses, old businesses. Like for example, in the plaza, getting back to the plaza, like Ming Tak Fong, like people don't know about that place unless you're involved in the community, right? So like I think engaging any type of community, like with all the different organizations and doing stuff like that, I think that really helps bring other businesses back in. Like for example, the Noodleicious Festival. We were not just celebrating Chinese-owned businesses with their noodle dishes, but looking at, for example, Irish Heather. Like there's noodle dishes there. Like it could be Italian, it could be anything. But if that's how you engage, because if we're going to be preaching diversity and inclusion, in this community, we need to back that up. And that's just one of the ways of doing it. It's just engaging. Pizza is coming, like Didi Mao, like that whole block. If we just, I think the whole dumpling thing is a great idea. We did that before the dumpling eating contest and the dumpling with Ken and everybody. But, if we could do more events like that and bring the community together, these new businesses, we want to make them feel welcome. So, I'm totally all for that. And that's how I would welcome the new businesses is, let's do more of these things to engage everybody.
Any other comments around just like this tension point that I think a lot of audience members have questions around? Yeah, Kim.
Yeah, just to, I guess, reiterate what William was saying in terms of restaurants or even businesses that are collaborating with each other, or even just referring customers to go see the garden if they're visiting and they don't know what to do in the area. And what else? Oh, do you know of a place that has good noodles or dumplings in the area, and refer them that, or dim sum places. And then just keeping the people in the area with the older businesses that you know that are selling products people are looking for, and just finding ways to collaborate, doing pop-ups. Like we did a pop-up for Shuck Shuck, which is an oyster place that opened, and they had reached out to us and said, oh, are you interested in collaborating with us? So we ended up doing a pho charity oyster, which is kind of like a pho broth with oyster and like a tendon crackling. And then we featured that on their menu, and all of the sales of that oyster ended up going to the Covenant House, which we'll be doing for December again. So just events like that to help drive traffic to the area, but also learn about other businesses through our business. Like our business, we have meat, like our barbecue duck is from Dollar Meat. So when customers ask, like, do you do that in-house? We say, no, like we actually contracted out to Dollar Meats and we get our duck from them. So having businesses work together in terms of events, collaborations, or featuring food on their menu from other businesses, that helps out a lot. So yeah, just to add that note.
Well, thank you for sharing some of these events that are bringing people into the neighborhood. Just cognizant of time, maybe we can do a round of closing comments. Folks have a couple minutes, but just curious as to the most important that you think that you hope to see for Chinatown in the next 2 to 3 years. What is that? Popcorn style. Anybody wants to go first? Go for it.
Hi, Kevin, Tom here. So what I would like to see is building on these strengths, more partnerships, bringing Chinatown leadership together, young and old. I would like to see that in the next 3 years. The progress so far has been most heartening. I've also heard these suggestions that you've been voicing about Chinatown Plaza. I'll take that back to the city and let the landlord know, and hopefully engage in discussions about that in the future. Thank you. Greatly enjoyed this moment with the community and the panel. Thank you very much.
Kevin? Yeah, I'd like to add something here. Going forward with ECMA, we know what we need to do. I think the number one thing is the outreach to new members and new businesses. But I'd like also to air a pet peeve of mine, and it has to do with public policy and the way property assessments are made in China, well, citywide. But I think Chinatown properties are particularly vulnerable. I mean, I think for the tax, for the small business owner, the tax, the way the properties that are assessed is based on potential development rights. And so for William's business, for instance, is a two-story building, but the taxation is based on what the potential development rights are. So it's like extraordinarily high, and that puts to risk the landlord. Even if they own their own building, there's a lot of pressure to either raise rents or just sell to a developer. And I think in Chinatown in particular, we really need to the city and VC government needs to really revisit that I think that will take a lot of pressure off of the business owners and for Chinatown in general. I think it'll alleviate a lot of the development pressure. So yeah.
I'd just like to add upon that. Thank you, Henry. Yeah, I want to reiterate and think that it's so important right now to kind of call upon government to provide this ongoing support to the small businesses. It will really help take pressure off the community, the businesses. And, I have to say, like, safety is a huge concern in Chinatown. So, I mean, with the government support, I think we can really up that safety and just make it feel welcome again, because I hear people talking about not wanting to come down to Chinatown because it's unsafe, right? I think if we have the right support from the government and continuous ongoing support, it would be a huge, tremendous difference. So yeah, I encourage that. And yeah, Henry, I totally agree with you. It will take the pressure off because there's a lot of pressure on these small businesses. Thank you.
Final comments from William Kim Wilco. William, I saw your hand up.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm just going to riff off of what Henry and Lorraine said about the government support. We were very, very fortunate, and I will be forever grateful for the support that we had from the government through Wilco, Dunefield, and Strathcona BIA. We were able to get that grant and really pivot our business. And I want other businesses to have that, especially those mom and pop shops that may not have the resources to get that kind of support. They may not have a succession plan. They may not have someone that can speak English that can guide them through this process. So if there was that government support for them, I really, really hope that they can actually adapt to the future, especially for the next 2-3 years, when St. Paul's is going to be opening, like Tom said, and this is going to be a huge change in Chinatown, and these businesses are going to need that kind of support. So that would be first and foremost I think the most important thing in my mind.
Kim and Wilco.
Yeah, I believe government support is very important to helping keeping our streets safe and promoting people to come to Chinatown, especially the local community. So having our streets clean, more security or patrols on the streets. The graffiti in the area is definitely a huge deterrent. And it really sucks to see that every day when I walk to work. Sure enough, somebody's in there to clean the building or clean the outsides of the building. And within days, the graffiti is back. And to not keep that maintained, it just builds more and more like graffiti on top of graffiti every day. And somebody's got to take care of that. And it sucks that the business owners have to pay a fine if they don't get this cleaned. And then they have to pay extra for someone to do the cleaning. So yeah, government support would help tremendously for the area and encouraging local traffic to come there. Because for me, I guess what I hope to see in 2 or 3 years is increased foot traffic and collaborating together, having events, doing all of these festivals and doing the work from the ground is one thing by business owners or organizations and all of us working together. But I believe that having that government push will ultimately, help Chinatown thrive. Yeah.
Thank you. Wilco.
Thank you, Kevin. Yeah, all very good comments, and also learned quite a few new things. But I would like to add to this. I think we made our Chinatown Plaza desires sufficiently clear, so I will not reiterate that. But 2 other things I think are really important. One is that I think we should invest and figure out a way that we can really recruit and nurture and support that kind of business and the kind of business owners that we're hoping for Chinatown. There will be opportunities that there are spaces vacant or we will activate them and so on. But we have to make sure that there is a bit of a lineup of the right kind of businesses and people with a certain mindset and who feel connected with the community, so that when these opportunities come up, we know who can go into these spaces. That does not automatically click. We have learned that the hard way. There could be just a random decision out of panic or out of need. The landlord says, yeah, I'm sorry, I cannot wait a couple of months. I cannot wait for that permit and so on. I'm going to go for something that is easier and that is available right now. So that recruitment of entrepreneurship, talent, and so on, we have to really make work of. The other thing is, I think a lot of people have spoken about that, and also yesterday, the other sessions, is we have to figure out how we can scale up our efforts. The talent is here, the ideas are here. If you look at the caliber of people engaging with Chinatown and participating, that deserves resources on the same level. And that is, I think, is not the case. And I think we should build that case together, that it is both the right way from a value perspective to really bring resources to these kind of topics, but it's also a rational thing to do. There is, it's a good investment to invest in Chinatown and its businesses and its community. We might benefit doing that together with Strathcona and Grandview Woodlands. I think there is synergy between these ecosystems and these businesses. These boundaries do not really exist for the economy, I think. So maybe it would help if we do that together with these other communities and build that case of why we think it's right for the government to step up and really add resources to the things we've been talking about today. So these two things I'd like to chip in as well, and are my hopes for the next 2-3 years.
Thanks, Marco. William, you had your hand up. Real quick comment. I want to keep people from their lunch, brunch, dim sum.
Sorry, yeah, just a quick comment. I just wanted to reiterate what a few of us have been saying about collaborations in Chinatown. And CAMY, we have collaborated with a lot of older businesses before. We have collaborated with A Dollar Meats, with Money Food, with Kali Barbecue Meats, with so many other businesses in Chinatown. And I think it's time for other businesses to collaborate with each other, especially the newer businesses. So one that I mentioned with Vegan Supply, we are just so excited about that. So I think a lot of these newer collaborations should continue in order to grow Chinatown's community, to bring newer people into Chinatown. I think that's really important. And going back to support from government, I think we can't forget the people that live in the community. So the seniors in Chinatown, and the marginalized community in the downtown east side, they all need support from the government, and we can do our part in lowering our prices in order to support the community. But I feel that that the government also needs to do their big part in supporting this community as well. So that's my last comment. Thank you.
And with that, just a couple minutes over. I just want to take a few moments to conclude the panel discussion today. First, thank you, panelists, for your generosity in sharing your wisdom, insights, and personal stories on such a public and important stage. Your comments have been inspirational, and even for me, who's I consider myself a community member and friends. And it's inspirational to hear what you think is possible, and just sharing your perspectives in a very nuanced way. So thank you. Also, I would like to acknowledge the City of Vancouver, especially the Chinatown Transformation Team, UBC Instruct, and my fellow colleagues at the Legacy Stewardship Group for putting on this forum. The forum has provided such an important and rare and necessary space for these conversations about how we can reimagine what the future of Chinatown is for us, but also for a city as a whole. So please take the time, audience members, to check out the Chinatown Reimagined forum website. There's a lot of videos covering a lot of the history, the work, and also some of the cool projects that are ongoing. And also this session will be put on there as well. So if you want to check out this or past sessions, it will be on the website. And also heads up that there will be 2 more sessions today. So the first one, the second one of the day, at 1 p.m. will be Intergenerational Leadership in Chinatown. And the final closing session at 3 p.m. is Chinatown Past, Present, and Future. So with that, thanks for joining us today, and hope to see folks in Chinatown. Hope to gather in person soon. Thanks.